Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I would like to welcome you all for this live webinar organized by Qatar Finance and Business Academy in collaboration with Northumbria University, Newcastle. We still have people joining. The topic will be about employability skills during and post COVID-19. My name is Khalifa Al Yafei, and also we will have our guest speaker, Mr. Bilal Solwa, who will talk later on this presentation. In the beginning, if I can ask you to mute yourself, just to make sure that we don't have echo in the presentation or in this webinar. Also, we'll have around 15 minutes at the end of this presentation to answer any questions. So the questions and answers will be in the end of this presentation. Okay, as I said, my name is Khalifa Al Yafei. I'm Director of Student Affairs at Qatar Finance and Business Academy in collaboration with Northumbria University. I'm also certified career counselor and a lecturer at Northumbria University teaching employability skills and career planning module. I hold a master's degree in career counseling, and I'm also a PhD candidate in Lancaster University doing my PhD in higher education. I have been working before in Hamad bin Khalifa University, Qatar Foundation, Cedra Medicine, and currently I'm working in Qatar Finance and Business Academy. And also I worked in Penn State University for 1 year as a career counselor. So today we'll talk about employability skills during COVID-19, and these are the topics that we will discuss in this presentation. We will start with giving you some brief statistics about the current situation, impact on workplace and economy, and then we will talk about importance of self-assessment, and then 7 ways to self-improvement during COVID-19. And then our guest speaker, Mr. Bilal, will talk about some recommended employability skills. And I will end this presentation with effective use of LinkedIn to uncover opportunities and the importance also of networking during these times. And as I mentioned, also, we'll have the last 15 minutes to answer any questions that you have. Always good to start with some statistics. We gathered some statistics from the International Monetary Fund and International Labor Organization. So as you can see, global economy pushed into recession with the growth projected to reach -3 and around minus 7.3 decline in 2020 across domestic product for oil producing countries across the Middle East and North Africa. I know it's maybe bad news, but it's always good to know our current situation to better assess ourselves and then build on our skills. There are some sectors are at risk, as you know: aviation, hospitality, food services, real estate, manufacturing. While there are some sectors at risk, there are some other sectors who found it as an opportunity to grow. So healthcare, pharmaceuticals, e-commerce, online grocery, of course, food delivery. The impact on the global economy and the workplace hits everywhere, all around the world, also here in Qatar. And I'm sure that you have heard about the situation in Qatar and some companies where a lot of employees have been laid off from the jobs. Mass redundancies forecasted in Arab states, equivalent to 5 million full-time workers. 10% of expat workforce could be made redundant in Qatar. This means competition is very high and few jobs for many graduates. So you need to stand out. If you are a fresh graduate, you will need to stand out. And if you were in a company working and you are not sure if you will keep your job, you will need to stand out to find another job in the future. Importance of self-assessment. This is a skill that you all need, not just as a professional, but as a student, as an individual, as a husband, maybe. It's a skill that we always need. We need to always reflect on experiences that we had in our life, where we can develop. If we were not able to assess ourselves, assess our experiences, will never develop as individuals. So it's the ability to self-examine and helps individuals monitor their own work or abilities. And it's a skill to explore strengths and weaknesses, as well as self-diagnose solution. So you have to be honest with yourself and to be able to find strengths and weaknesses and build on these weaknesses. And if you have strengths, you can build on these strengths also to stand out and to be more confident. Why it's important? So as I said, it boosts self-confidence and self-esteem. So you better, and when you better understand your strength. So if you know that you are good at, for example, public speaking, you will have confidence, and that will increase your self-esteem when you go in front of people and talk in front of people. Or if you are good with numbers, you will have more confidence talking about numbers or talking about stock market, for example. So that's why self-assessment is always good. It also reduces insecurities. So by providing clarity on your strengths and reduces fear and uncertainty. So when you know what are your strengths and what are your weaknesses, you know where you are standing. And you will start building on your weaknesses. So it helps in reducing insecurities. Capacity building. So when you know, again, your weakness, you will be able to identify gaps in the skills or gaps in the knowledge that you have, and you will start building on these, building on and improving your abilities. It will also help you with your career guidance, helps to align your personality with a suitable future occupation and career path. And finally, will greatly assist you with writing your CV and provide authenticity during the interview process. How can I self-assess? In a basic way, ask yourself questions. So try to ask yourself questions about different experiences that you had in your life, about what, how, and why you have a problem at doing something. Try to find the weaknesses that you have and strengths that you have. Be honest with yourself. Once you know your weaknesses and your strengths, you can start to establish some goals and targets, develop targets or goals for yourself. Then assess your skills in relation to those relevant targets. Finally, request feedback. It's always good to request feedback from others. So imagine any feedback, could be an assignment feedback, or it could be an appraiser from your coach or from your boss. All these feedbacks or all these feedback could help you to improve yourself. If you have a colleague, or if you have someone at work who work with you in a project, try to get feedback from them. Not necessarily only about your weaknesses, but also about your strengths, to know what you are good at. Sometimes we don't know what we are good at unless someone tell us that you are good in numbers, or good in analyzing problems, or finding new creative solutions. So try to search and find out what you are good at. A very good model that could help you in assessing yourself is Gibb's reflective model, which is basically the reflective practice means thinking about, reflecting on what you do, reflecting on all the experiences that we have been go through. So it could be an interview, or it could be an assignment, or it could be a relationship, or an event that you have organized. So try to go back and think about the events that happened to you, what went well and what needs to have been done again in a different way. So here is an example of Gibbs reflective cycle, and you can see the cycle starts with a description or a situation, then talks about the feelings, evaluation, analysis, and conclusion and action plan. So here's an example of someone who went for an interview, and I'm sure most of you maybe went for an interview, job interview, And this interview didn't went well. And then it talks about the feeling or what he felt from this interview, and an evaluation of what happened, why he thinks that this interview didn't went well, and an analysis of how it could be better in the next time. So that's why we are talking about assessing yourself and reflective practice, and then initiating an action plan that could help in the next interview in the future. There are some examples of 7 ways to improve your skills during COVID-19, and Mr. Bilal Solwa will talk more deeply on more skills and more details. So, firstly, learn a new skills. So don't just stay without improving or developing your skills. Try to learn as much as skills as you can, especially skills related to technology. So upskill, cross-skill using free accredited training to broaden your skill set. There are a lot of different platforms that you can use currently online who offers free trainings through universities or through LinkedIn, for example, and you can build on your skill. Take up a new hobby that you used to have before, or something that you want to try. Uh, try new things. Maybe you can find a new hobby that will open doors for you. Maybe a hobby that related to numbers, or something related to arts or creativity, or language, for example. So try to find a new hobby that maybe will open for you some doors. Be adaptable and flexible, and I'm sure you have experienced this during COVID-19 when it started, I think in March. It was a new situation for all of us, and it might continue forever. We need to be always adaptable and flexible when it comes to work environment, and be able to work and to adapt to any new situation. Emotional intelligence, or EQ, is the ability to be aware and of express and control our emotions, and be aware of other emotions. So this is another skill that you always need to have, and it's good to have, is emotional intelligence of knowing or controlling your emotions, and also be aware of other emotions. As I mentioned, become tech savvy. Currently, COVID has changed our life. I'm delivering this webinar online while you are staying maybe at home, or maybe you are at your car currently going back home. So you need to become a tech savvy. You need to, as much as you can, learn how to use technology. Some universities now laid off their faculties because they refuse to use technology in teaching students, or they have it as a requirement within the job requirement when they recruit, for example, faculty or staff to teach students. They need to know how to use, for example, Teams or Zooms or WebEx. So this is another important skill that we all need to have. Even if you don't like technology, you will need to learn how to use it. Take time out and plan. So now is the time to invest in yourself while unemployment may be high and new opportunities arise from any crisis. If you remember when we had the blockade in 2017, it was a big crisis for us, all of us. But from that crisis, we were able to assess ourselves, and we were able to develop on our weaknesses. Now, in terms of food security or water security, we have developed a lot as a country. So it's the same thing. So now in COVID-19, we need to know what are the opportunities that comes to us. I know some of my friends, when the COVID-19 has started in March, they were able to invest in the stock market and makes a lot of money now, because the stock market now came back again a little bit, but like they made money from this opportunity. So we need to look into any opportunity from any crisis. And finally, with all these 7 ways, if we are not digitally network with others, nothing will change. So You will earn new skills, you will earn new knowledge, or you will gain a new degrees without digitally networking with others. Nothing will change. So you need to be active on social media and networking with others and be there so people will know you more. I will move it now to Mr. Bilal, who will talk about employability skills as a recruiter perspective.
Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Thank you so much for the doom and gloom, some really scary numbers and statistics, but I think really important to paint an accurate and realistic picture. I think one of the things that is very clear is that, this is stuff we've never seen before. These are times that are unprecedented. We haven't seen anything like this since the Great Depression. So, these are it's important for us to get an accurate feel and not be scared, but also importantly to plan ahead. So, in terms of introduction, my name is Bilal Solwa. I have 12 plus years of global recruitment experience. I'm currently working for the Qatar Central Bank as a senior recruitment specialist. I also work for Northumbria University as adjunct faculty, teaching HR and business modules. And in terms of my specialty, it's very much along the lines of talent acquisition and HR transformation. Like I said, in regards to the brands that I've worked for, Qatar Central Bank, Northumbria University, I've noticed some of my ex-colleagues from Sidra Medicine that have tuned in today, so hi to you. I used to be the manager of national talent acquisition at Sidra, and prior to that, very much executive corporate recruitment over in Australia, which is home. In regards to my academic profile, I'm currently undertaking my PhD at Lancaster University in the UK. I've got a master's in HR as well as a bachelor in psychology. So, in regards to where we're at right now, I think most of us, or many of us, are undergoing what we call career shock, which is essentially, defined as a disruptive event that we are undergoing, caused by factors outside of our control, which kind of triggers deliberate thought processes in regards to our career. Now, it is a very disruptive period in our lives. Those that are working are sort of insecure in regards to the work and the future of their work. Those that don't have work are not sure about, sort of the potential of employment opening up due to cuts across the country and across the world. And this is sort of the new normal. And when we say new normal, what we're referring to is an event or an era, i.e., COVID-19, that was previously unfamiliar or atypical, that has now become standard or usual. So, sort of, we haven't seen a pandemic for the past 100 years. So this is all sort of very new to us, and in regards to our opportunities moving forward. And what this has resulted in essentially is a huge disruption to economic activity, as well as our social life. I'm not too sure about you, but my social life has been disrupted significantly. Going to the beach, almost feels like a crime these days. But it has disrupted our lives in many ways. And what this now results in is psychological changes within the workforce. We've got to now adapt in regards to how we think, sort of how we visualize our role within organizations, what is our purpose within organizations, and how we plan for the future. Everyone's talking about future proofing themselves and aligning themselves to new opportunities. These are all different psychological constructs that have since occurred as a result of what we're now seeing due to COVID. One of the important things to be familiar with is what the world would look like post COVID-19. What we're going to now see moving forward as things slowly start opening and opportunities present themselves is a very reskilled workforce. They are going to definitely be changes to attitudes and behaviors within the workplace. People will be forced, to sort of confront what might be uncomfortable to them. As an example, potentially working remotely or working from home, or even sort of adapting to newer technologies. We will have to reskill if we want to maintain our employment. What we will also see is a very tech savvy and digitalized work patterns. Virtual teams and remote working has now become the norm. We've been doing it for the past 4 months, and moving forward, what you might find is globally there might be a shift towards virtual teams because there's always opportunities to leverage of cheaper workforces overseas. So this is kind of going to be the new normal. What we'll also find within organizations is a more agile organization and workforce that is really quick and very adaptable in regards to adapting to change and shocks. So, this is one of the pluses of a very challenging environment. We will be very agile. We will be very lean, but we will also be highly skilled to be able to adjust to shocks and changes along the way. Khalifa spoke about the blockade a little bit earlier on, and I think that's probably the perfect example of building, sort of opportunities and a workforce that is open to change and shocks, where the blockade didn't, sort of at the time seemed catastrophic. But now when we think back to it and how we've adjusted as a country and as a workforce, it doesn't seem so bad anymore. One of the other things that I'm already seeing, sort of within the workforce, is different competencies that line managers are looking for. Having a degree and having sort of just internships isn't merely enough to secure opportunities. Line managers are looking for the new recruits, especially fresh graduates, to be a little bit more creative. Innovation is always, sort of receptive right now, considering, the changes that we are all undergoing. Graduates need to be more technologically adept than previously. And what we're looking for is essentially transferable skills and resilience within the workforce. These are things that I'm seeing right now within the workforce, and skills that we need to be familiar with, and we need to be able to highlight in our CVs to be able to attract the attention of recruiters as well as line managers. So in regards to sort of employability skills, that is really what I wanted to talk about today. I've listed six key skills that I think are critical after much research, but also after practical experience. And a lot of them might sort of sound familiar. Some of them might be taught, sort of in some of the modules that I'm teaching at Northumbria, but they are all practical for all of us, including myself, in regards to, sort of exploring opportunities that might not otherwise be there, and to be able to get ourselves and our brand out into the labor force and into the right, sort of to get noticed by the right people. So the first thing I wanted to talk about is an elevator pitch. Now, we do hear of it quite often, but not a lot of us use it. I mean, I've studied this sort of stuff, but I haven't really used it up until about 6 years ago. What a sales or what an elevator pitch really is, it's a sales pitch of less than 60 seconds. As you can tell from the name, it's very much a synopsis. It's very much concise. It's highlighting, sort of your background and your experience, and it needs to be compelling and very, very accurate and direct. And one of the key things to take away from an elevator pitch is the fact that it's not merely the words that count, but it's also the nonverbal communication, such as eye contact, facial expression, gestures, that all really count to be able to make an impression. Some of the things you wanted to include is your name, your education, your professional experience, important skills, and how you can essentially add value to an organization, to sort of to a line manager, to a hiring manager, whatever that might be. What we need to be is very authentic. We need to be, sort of persuasive. We need to keep it short and sweet and focus on the essentials. It's a very short window, a very short period of time to make that initial and that first impression. What I would suggest against, and I know it's ironic I say this because I speak really fast and I mumble sometimes, but what we don't want to be doing is mumbling, speaking too fast, or speaking in monotone. If people don't know what monotone is, it's speaking in the same tone throughout those 60 seconds. We don't want to ramble and we don't want to lose focus. So I'm going to give it a crack right now after I get some water. So let's assume I'm walking into an elevator, and sort of I crack up a conversation with somebody who I might not necessarily know, or somebody who looks, sort of in somebody who might have a HR badge on them, as an example, and I've got 60 seconds to make it count to introduce myself. So what I would be saying is something along the lines of, good day, good afternoon, good morning, whatever it might be. My name is Bilal, and I'm a global HR professional with over a decade worth of experience across Asia Pacific and the Middle East. I hold a Master's of Human Resources, and I'm currently undertaking my PhD. I have worked with some of the biggest brands in recruitment, including those listed on the London Stock Exchange. Utilizing my extensive global networks, there's probably a good chance I am socially connected to your next hire. I am also very passionate about educating future generations and am excited to be involved in academia where I lecture at Northumbria University, Qatar, across a variety of business and HR modules. This allows me to keep abreast of the latest developments and global HR best practice. Thank you for your time. Thank you for listening. And I look forward to connecting with you on LinkedIn. That sort of just leaves it open for future discussions, as well as it paints a picture. That's 12 years of my life summarized in 60 seconds, essentially. So, sort of practice your elevator pitch, be really good at it, because you don't necessarily only use it in an elevator. It's probably the first few things you say when you meet potentially a recruiter or line manager at interview. So it's a nice synopsis. It's something you need to be familiar with, and you can always utilize it when and if necessary. The second thing that I think is really important, considering the downturn, considering the fact that we do have extra time on our hands, potentially working remotely, working, sort of half on, half off at work, and with the Eid holidays coming up, is to use this opportunity to sharpen your CV. And as somebody who's worked in recruitment for over 12 years, I tend to see all types of CVs. I tend to find different approaches, some tools sometimes that surprise me, which is there to actually grab my attention. But essentially what you want to be using or what you want to do is try and maximize your aesthetic appeal. Statistically, recruiters tend to review CVs for not more than between 6 to 30 seconds. That's, again, a very short window of time in which to make an impression to a recruiter that might be looking at hundreds and hundreds of CVs. And I know that sounds a little bit exaggerated, but it's not. As somebody who worked at, sort of various organizations in the past in a recruitment capacity, I've had roles advertised where I've secured, upwards of 900 to 1,000 applicants, for essentially what might be 20 positions. So, line managers want to see the best of the best. Organizations want to recruit the best of the best. And what we then need to do is be able to stand out in that very short period of time. In regards to sharpening your CV, what we want to be doing is highlighting transferable skills, which will allow you to be considered for a broader range of possible career opportunities. It's not far-fetched where you interview for one position and somebody within the team says, you know what, I actually think you might be better suited at another position we're recruiting, or potentially a position we're still going to be advertised. Somebody might have resigned and we're about to sort of advertise this role, but I can see you in that particular role because of the skills that you might have that are transferable. So what you want to do is sort of be versatile and maximize your opportunities for employment by highlighting your transferable skills. Khalifa spoke a little bit about reflective practices. Be sure to include any abilities and skills that you have uncovered after undergoing the Gibbs reflective cycle. In regards to your CV, what I would suggest is to use emoticons and branding. Now, when I say emoticons, I'm not talking about emojis like smiley faces and winks. I'm talking about, sort of professional logos like a light bulb, for a creative idea that you might have had, or, sort of pens, for something that you might have penned or whatever it might be. But, emoticons that, sort of grab the reader's attention. So what we want to be doing is presenting your best foot forward and standing out. One of the things that I keep telling, sort of candidates that I interview is feel free to maximize your CV by utilizing logos of your employer, of your university. Feel free to write a short summary of the employer that you work for to give the reader some context. We work in a very diverse environment here in Doha where sort of recruitment professionals might be from all parts of the world, and considering the new normal, where sort of there are people that are churning and jobs that are being lost, we can't assume that the reader knows all the organizations you've worked for or can appreciate the brands that you've worked for. So, as an example, if you've worked for a top tier brand that might not necessarily be that well known in Doha, be sure to highlight that to the reader. That will obviously then make a bigger impression than just merely stating their name. One of the other things that I think is really important to give context to a recruiter that is reviewing your CV is to include information such as your GPA. If you've done really well at university, feel free to sort of flaunt it. Let people know that you are, you are a high potential, you are somebody that excels in what you do. And if you've done, sort of particular modules or particular projects that, are your key achievements and something that you're really proud about, feel free to display that sort of information, because it does make an impression. I tend to find a lot of salespeople, for example, putting percentages and graphs of the sales that they've done from a business development perspective and the value that they've brought to an organization. Things like that, sort of stick with me, because it tells a story in very few words. So feel free to utilize, those 30 seconds and, the 2 or 3 pages to make that initial impression. One of the last things that I wanted to touch on from a CV perspective was to keep it professional. And when I say keep it professional, sometimes I tend to find this more with fresh graduates, where they've just sort of graduated from university. They haven't really had their first job yet, and they're in the market. They're motivated. They're ready to work. They've got the potentially the technological skills from university. They've got theoretical knowledge. However, when I sort of go to contact them, I might see an email address such as cupcakes94@gmail.com, and that leaves a very sour taste that, to me as a recruiter, demonstrates immaturity, recklessness, a bit of clumsiness. It doesn't it doesn't do justice to the work that you've done in getting a degree or your career. So make sure keep your email addresses professional, and by professional I mean even first name, last name at gmail.com or hotmail.com, whatever it might be. But just don't I don't want to see sort of little princess 94, whatever it might be. It just doesn't look professional, and I know you're probably laughing, but it's true. One of the other things that I've got, and the third point that I wanted to raise, was volunteering. Volunteering, and I've seen it firsthand, is critical to building job know-how or position know-how. As businesses start reopening and the wider economy starts picking up slowly, consider volunteer activities which offer several benefits, including fighting loneliness and improving social skills. In a COVID-19 environment, there might be potentially a lot of professionals that are in the country that are lonely. They are working from home. They might have, sort of lost their jobs or whatever it might be. And volunteering will then fight the loneliness. It will fight or it'll improve your social skills. But more importantly, it'll also allow you to network with the organization and key stakeholders within the organization. From a healthcare perspective, I tend to find this very often, where people go to hospitals, as an example, because they want to give back to the community, they want to give back to society, and they're very passionate and genuine about wanting to make a difference and helping those that are in need. And it's the same in the charity world, the not-for-profit world. And what tends to happen is, sort of volunteers gain the know-how, they gain the trust of those that are in power, and are then approached with opportunities that might not even be advertised. But because they've been working in a voluntary capacity, their skills have been demonstrated, and that impression has been cast. So don't ever underestimate, sort of the value that volunteering does offer. One of the other things about volunteering or voluntary work is it creates friendships, it improves confidence, it sharpens skills, and helps you to become job ready. So if you're looking for your first job, assuming you've just freshly graduated, voluntary activity is something that is always welcome on a CV. It does make an impression, and it's something that recruiters tend to favor because it demonstrates selflessness. Be sure to include it in on your CV. I haven't put any notes on lateral career move, but it's something that I wanted to discuss, especially now where some careers might not be sustainable in the longer future. When you sort of reassessing your purpose within the organizations, there might be, you might be working in an area where you deem yourself to be in a dead end type of job, where maybe there is no longevity because technology might be taking over, whatever it might be. What I would strongly recommend, and again I've seen this time and time again, especially with sort of young Qatari national graduates that come into the business, is where they might have studied in one particular area, but they tend to sort of be open to opportunities outside of that particular area. And what that then does is it presents opportunities to build a career in a very different direction, and that might be the perfect antidote to fighting COVID-19, where you can now, in a very organic way, transfer your career to a different direction while still, being employed and still having, the networks that you have at work. So if you're in work, definitely consider lateral career movements if you feel that you're stuck in work, or if you're even threatened by, the type of work that you do. The fourth point that I wanted to raise is the honing of digital interview skills. Now, for the past 4 months, from a personal perspective, most of the interviews that we've done across the country have essentially been on MS Teams. It's been on Zoom and Skype and all the rest of it, where people might be sitting in Doha, people might be sitting in the same suburb as you, but due to legislation and restrictions, we're not allowed to meet in person. And what that's now presented is opportunities for us to conduct more interviews with more people in a shorter window of time because it's done online. But that can create opportunities of challenge, especially for candidates. What we tend to find is digital interviews tend to lack rapport building. So it's always difficult sitting in front of a laptop like I'm doing right now, trying to have a natural conversation, because this is a very unnatural setting right now. So to create that, first impression, to build that rapport that is not face to face, can be a challenge. So the trick to digital interviewing is to practice and practice and keep practicing until you become comfortable, until you become sort of comfortable and confident in your interviewing skills. One of the other things that I would strongly recommend, especially in this current environment, is to create a space for yourself at home or wherever it might be that has sufficient lighting and, importantly, silence. I know, we tend to watch the news where you see kids running in on, sort of senior economists that might be talking about, sort of the doom and gloom of the global economy. But I think, from a professional perspective, where possible, if you've got a silent space, if you've got a room that's sort of nicely hidden away for you to do your interviews or whatever it might be, it just, increases your opportunities at making an impression should you get an interview. And one of the other things is, because it's a digital interview, you can always use your elevator pitch to make that initial first impression. The fifth point that I wanted to raise is marketing yourself. Now, I know we kind of, I suppose, culturally find it difficult to be able to talk highly of ourselves. Some cultures tend to downplay themselves because of humility and so forth. But when it comes to the professional world, professional marketing, such as, going on LinkedIn and being professional, and I know Khalifa will talk about it, is always welcome. One of the things that I keep doing as a recruiter, and it might be because I'm nosy, I'm not too sure, it might just be because I've got a snoopy personality, is I tend to go and look at the Google profiles of candidates that I'm recruiting, especially for sensitive positions. What we want to do, especially for the type of organizations that I work for, that are sort of semi-government, that are, sort of highly respected within the region, is I want to attract candidates that are not potentially going to inadvertently embarrass themselves, and by extension, the organization, utilizing social media. And doing something silly and, thinking it's funny at the time can do untold damage, especially in the current environment where things go viral overnight. So, sort of market yourself, but make sure that your image out there in the social world, in the cyber world, is as professional as possible. Create a candidate profile, and I would say subscribe to job alerts for suitable vacancies. That will make it easier for yourself. Use technology to help you. Utilize technology for your own gain. One of the other things that I would say is perseverance. Now, I know it's easier said than done, but in this current environment, we need to persevere and we need to keep trying. Typically, in sort of when times were good, people used to always say apply for 100 jobs and you might get 5 interviews, and those were when organizations were recruiting and were employing. And in the current environment, obviously, that is largely depressed. So what I would say is, sort of don't give up, persevere. You're not the only one going through the hurdles of securing work or securing better, more suitable employment. You just got to keep trying, and eventually perseverance does pay off. LinkedIn is a recruiter's best friend to source talents for future and current vacancies. I've utilized LinkedIn extensively. Khalifa will tell you a story a little bit later on, I think, where he was recruited He was recruited by myself, utilizing LinkedIn whilst he was sitting in America. And sort of I've used LinkedIn to recruit very senior, sensitive positions for organizations in Doha for people that have never even been to the region. So, the only reason I got a hold of these candidates that are highly skilled is because I was sort of exposed to them on LinkedIn and they had a profile that attracted me. One of the other things about LinkedIn is to be engaged, to comment, to be active on LinkedIn. Merely having a profile is not enough. It's about what you do with it, and engaging in conversations, because people read and form opinions, and then might reach out to you, to discuss things and who knows what and what it might lead to. So don't just be on LinkedIn. Be engaged, comment, like. Post your thoughts, post your opinions from your experience, and that will build a following and sort of rapport with recruiters, and it'll get your brand out there. The last thing I would say from an employability skills perspective is to be familiar with your psychometric profile and skills. And psychometric testing, I mean, there's hundreds and hundreds out there on the internet, and I've got a few links out there of websites that do sort of free psychometric testing. But my thoughts and my opinions are, after 12 years of working in recruitment, is when I speak to a candidate that talks to me at an interview and he's confident in his skills and his abilities, and he can then demonstrate it by linking it to his psychometric or personality profile, it lends a lot more to the credibility, and to me believing what this candidate is saying. If I know that if I'm recruiting, as an example, a role that is in banking, and I know that the person that's in front of me might have a business administration degree, but they demonstrate that they are fit with the type of work or the type of organization that I work in, and they've got the traits and the personality fit, that lends to myself and the line manager potentially favoring somebody, because they've highlighted how they link and what they see in common between their own personality and potentially an organization fit. So, as part of your reflective exercises and to assist with writing an accurate and honest CV, sort of undertake psychometric testing, and you might even uncover skills or traits that you might not have thought you had. I personally, when I do my psychometric profiling, I come up more often than not as an extrovert. However, I think I'm an introvert. And at interviews, when I used to interview, I would often say I've got a clash, sort of within, where I am extroverted in terms of an objective measure, a psychometric test. However, in my own body, I tend to think I'm a little bit introverted. And that always leads to a discussion, sort of with the line manager or recruiter, that can, open yourself up to becoming a little bit more personable with the person that's in front of you. So it doesn't hurt to be familiar with who you are and your psychometric profile, and linking it to the organization or even the sector that you work in. Like I said, there's a lot of psychometric testing available online. My advice would be to stick to the big ones that recruiters typically use, and the ones that most major organizations or Fortune 500 companies tend to use are the Myers-Briggs type indicator, the 16 PF, or the 16 personality factor questionnaire, the Big Five, and the Big Five personality test. Those are probably three of the big ones. And if you're familiar with sort of your scoring and your testing along those tests, they would be really useful at interview. Make a huge impression to a recruiter at an interview by linking your psychometric profile to the job. This demonstrates self-awareness and fit, and you will leave a lasting impression. So I'll be happy to take any questions after Khalifa is done, but I'm going to pass it over now to Khalifa to talk a little bit about LinkedIn and to go through LinkedIn with you.
Thank you, Bilal. I'm sure most of you have a LinkedIn account. I will just go through it very quickly. So as you know, as Bilal mentioned, LinkedIn has been used by recruiters, especially in the maybe semi-government and private sector more than the government sector. It has more than 675 million users, around 310 million active users, and a lot of executives on LinkedIn, on like 10 million executive. I wanted to show you, where is it? My LinkedIn account. and then we can go through some of the features on LinkedIn. Where is it? Okay. Bilal, can you see my page? Okay, great. Okay, so this is my LinkedIn page, and I'm showing my LinkedIn page because I wanted to tell you LinkedIn is not only about applying for jobs. Bilal maybe mentioned the story of recruiting me when I was doing my master's in career counseling at Penn State University. We're looking for someone to be responsible for the scholarship office at Cedra Medicine. So I've been reached out through LinkedIn, and I did my interview when I was there. Actually, I was on a vacation in Miami, and I did the interview from Miami. But the point is, like, I was recruited from LinkedIn, and even when I moved to Qatar Finance Business Academy, I found that the CEO of this company, or of Qatar Business Academy, has been appointed as a CEO. So I reached out to him, and I was like saying to him, just congrats on your new appointment. And I told him that I'm open for any offers, and he offered me a position here in Qatar Finance Business Academy. So I didn't apply for any jobs through LinkedIn, but LinkedIn is a very good tool that you can use always to apply for jobs and see what companies are posting. But the most important thing in LinkedIn is to be active, to engage with others, to post on your page as much as you can about your topic, about your field. So if I told you what will be the keywords or key skills that will describe you as a person, what will be these keywords? So if you go to my page, you will find students, higher education, universities, employability, career counseling. These are the keywords that I have. Maybe Bilal have things related to HR, and each one of you has different specialties. So as much as you can, try to engage with others and talk about your field and be the expert. Once you engage and people know who you are, and you attracted more people to go and click on your LinkedIn profile and go and see your experiences, you will be more able to be noticed from others and from recruiters in general. So this is in general. Like, of course, you need to have a profile picture. Try to have a professional profile picture, and maybe if you have some certifications related to your field, maybe you can list it there and with your name. In the about section, as maybe Bilal mentioned, elevator pitch, maybe you can have something similar here, like summary about your experiences and what are the keywords that you have. So if you can see mine, it's about career counseling, students, higher education, employability, and those stuff, or scholarship also. And then you can also see my activity, and that will show how active you are in the field. So try as much as you can, as I told you, to post things, and it would be better if you can post in Arabic and English, because some of the recruiters they don't speak Arabic. So try to post in both languages. In the experience section, try to put some evidences. So if you have some videos or some projects that you have worked on, try to attach it with your experience. It would give more insights to the recruiter to who you are. So this is an example of my page. But in the same time, if you go to the search feature, you will find a lot of different things. It's not only about jobs, but it's also about people, content, companies, schools. So if you go, for example, schools, and you looked into, let's say, Penn State University, because that's my master's university. So I went to Penn State University, and then I went to alumni. Once you go to alumni, you can search for any alumni located in Qatar. There are more than 399 alumni from Penn State, and they are working in Qatar in all these different companies. The good thing about the alumni tool is you will be more able to connect with people who have the same common factors that you have. And I'm sure, like, when you message someone in LinkedIn, you will say, like, a lot of people, they don't reply, and this is normal. But once you have more common factors, you will people will tend, like, more kind to reply to you if you if you were graduated from the same company, for example, or from same university, or you worked in the same company before. So this is one of the tools that you can always use. Another thing is the alert on the jobs, as Bilal mentioned. So for example, I have an alert, for example, on Qatar Foundation, for example. So if you go to the company that you like want to work for, you can always go to jobs and create job alerts for any company that you want, and you will always receive messages from these companies. Once they post any jobs, you will receive a message. So today they post a job called Career Development Officer, and because it's related to my area, I receive the job alert on my email. This is like in general, and like of course you can use also the other features of LinkedIn, and I'm sure jobs is one of the most important things that you will always need to try and check like the jobs for the last, for example, for the last 24 hours, and you can find what are the companies posted jobs, or you can put a keyword, for example, human resources, and check what are the companies that posted things related to human resources in Qatar for the last 24 hours. So what I wanted to say about LinkedIn is not only about searching for jobs, but connecting with people. It's essential, and building your brand. Try as much as you can to talk about your field, to talk about things that you are good at, and putting some examples, or even if you found something interested in English language and you wanted to translate it into Arabic and putting the source for people to know about, it's good to do that. So try as much as you can to be professional and to be there, and for people to know who you are. And if you saw also people like posted something related to your field, try to comment and like these stuff so you can connect with people. Bilal, do you wanted to say anything about LinkedIn?
Nothing you haven't discussed or nothing you haven't covered, to be absolutely honest, Khalifa. One of the things I would say from somebody who recruited in the national talent acquisition space is that I tend to find there's not enough Qataris on LinkedIn. And those that, the few that are on LinkedIn that are active tend to stand out and tend to secure or tend to attract opportunities easier than those that are not on LinkedIn. I mean, you're the perfect example where I think you might have attracted two positions or two offers on LinkedIn. Whereas if you weren't on LinkedIn, maybe those opportunities would not have presented themselves. So for somebody like me who tends to recruit a lot of national graduates, as an example, if they're on LinkedIn, if they're active, I tend to find them a lot easier because they tend to be connected to me, and they tend to come up on my newsfeed a lot more often. So if in a tough employment climate that we're in right now, sort of make it as easy as possible for yourself and make your profile as attractive as possible to get that sort of attention from somebody like me who might be recruiting. So more especially if you're a national, sort of there isn't enough nationals on LinkedIn, and it would be a lot easier for you to stand out.
Great. Thank you, Bilal. Okay, before we end our webinar today, these are some of examples that you can do currently if you don't have a job, or even if you have a job. It's always good to continue and on studying further, or developing your career skill set, or even earning an income. So there are different now platforms that will offer you a place, or could offer you a place to, for example, Mudaris, the first one here on the left, top left, gives you an opportunity to teach others. So, for example, high schoolers who wants help in mathematics, for example, or science. So you could be a tutor and you can get money in the same time. Academia is another a new platform that offers you a place where you can train others in a live webinar or a live training, but you should have a certification in a specific field. So, but it's another good tool that you can use to earn money, especially if you don't have a job. My private tutor, it's another good tool. Also, as I mentioned earlier, and Bilal mentioned, there are a lot of different platforms that offers free learning, free courses. Some of them has partnered even with universities like MIT and Harvard. Coursera is a very good tool that offers you these certifications with these universities. LinkedIn also has a very good platform called LinkedIn Learning, and also the Open University has different courses in all the disciplines that you can always take at your free time. So try to, as much as you can, to invest in yourself, to assess yourself, and to know your strengths and weaknesses, and build on these weaknesses during this time. This is, I think, okay, this is all. Thank you for listening, and thanks for joining us today. We will be here to answer any questions that you have. I think there are already questions from Jazz. Maybe Bilal, you will need to answer this question because it's related to CV.
Okay, so let me go through the chat and try and address questions one by one. All right. So we've got Ajaz who asks about the elevator pitch, a little different in the COVID-19 age, face masks, virtual and digital interactions. So when I spoke about the elevator pitch being used in the current environment, what I meant was when you're in a digital environment, potentially in an interview, it's a nice way to open up that will then build rapport with people that are on the other side of the screen, because it's a very unnatural environment. I completely appreciate, everything you've said in regards to face masks and the challenge of now discussing or now speaking. However, in as things are right now, we are slowly opening. Hopefully, inshallah, with time, the pandemic will go away and things will slowly start, sort of normalizing. So elevator pitch is just not, for a COVID period or a non-COVID period. You can use it, sort of in any context. It might be at a career fair, it might be at an interview, it might be, sort of talking to your peers at work, looking at lateral opportunities. You could use it at any given time. Was there anything else you'd like to add, Khalifa?
No, that's it. I saw there is a question regarding volunteering websites. So there are different websites that you can check, Ajaz. For example, Qatar Red Crescent and TAM Network. It's by Nama. Also Q Voluntary. It's by the Ministry of Youth in Qatar. So these are the main three centers that you can try, because they have it on their website, and you can apply for a volunteering opportunity through their website.
I'm aware that 2020 had a whole heap of opportunities for volunteering. And where you might find opportunities to volunteer is as soon as, there's big scale events that are happening in Doha, your IAAF Diamond League, any sport events that tend to come to Doha, they're always looking for volunteers to help with logistical operations. So that might be a step in the door. I tend to find quite a few CVs that have experience with the Supreme Committee from a voluntary perspective. But, don't just limit yourself to those organizations. You can always contact or email, sort of organizations such as hospitals, for an example, that would need potentially volunteers to help in the current environment because they're overstretched with, sort of patients from the pandemic, whatever it might be. So, I think, again, perseverance and being proactive will be key.
Jazz, also, I posted for you a great reading called Brilliant Graduate Career Handbook. It helps like fresh graduates to gain employability skills and takes them step by step. It's really recommended, and we also using it here in Northern University with our students.
One of the other questions asked was, what information should definitely be left off a CV? A really good question. I tend to find all types of CVs, to be honest, and a lot of the information I tend to find isn't always useful or isn't always meaningful, because a lot of CVs might be written for an international audience, or it might be written as somebody would write in their home country, for example. Information that I don't tend to find useful, that I tend to see a little bit too often, is something like a driver's license, unless it's absolutely mandatory and necessary for the type of work you're applying for. People don't need to know you can drive a car. People almost take it as a given that you'll be able to get to work and get home from work however that might pan out. But they don't need to know whether you've got a driver's license, what's your driver's license number, is it an open, sort of driver's license, is it automatic or manual? It's redundant information. It's just wasting the recruiter's time, and it's taking away from some of the skills you'd otherwise want to highlight. I tend to find some CVs that talk about, parents being really passionate and listing the names and the numbers of kids that they have. All very good. I appreciate that. But as a recruiter in a professional capacity, it's unnecessary unless it's important to the type of work, for example. One of the things that is a no-no for me, and something that should be left off a CV, is a copy and paste of a job description. It's very easy to tell, as somebody who peruses CVs day in and day out, when a CV is written in a customized manner and when it's a copy and paste job from a job description. When I tend to find copy and pastes, I frown upon it because I think it's quite lazy, to be absolutely honest. You can take the information and summarize it and put it in your own words, and it just makes it a little bit more genuine, a little bit more authentic. And the other thing I would say is people tend to sometimes change between, sort of careers and different types of sectors, for example. If there's information or training that you might have that is not relevant to the role that you're applying for, especially because people might have a lot of training and developmental opportunities in work, leave it out. If it's not relevant to the role that you're applying for, there's no reason to put it in there. You can better make use of the space on the CV and sell skills and information that is more relevant to the role that you're applying for. I know from experience, I've seen CVs where people have had, maybe 10 years of experience, and the amount of training and developmental, sort of opportunities that they've got listed is 2 pages. 2 pages that I definitely will not read. That is really annoying because it's wasting my time and it's not relevant. I don't need to know everything about you. I just need to know enough that you're suitable for the role that I'm recruiting.
And also, I always suggest to have your LinkedIn account on your CV. So if they want to know more about you, you can always direct them to your LinkedIn account, where you can put all the projects or all other evidences in terms of videos or projects that you have worked on. So that's why LinkedIn could be a good use. And as we are moving now digitally, maybe in the future, you don't know, maybe even the paper CV could be not necessary anymore. So try to be try to have all, everything live on your LinkedIn profile too. I'm not sure if we answered all the questions.
One of the other ones that I'd like to address, let me have a quick look. My question is, as soon as you graduate as a graduating student, is showing examples from projects in an interview acceptable? Do you have any tips for students who are in college right now? What I did personally is from my university days, in the module that I did the best, where I got the highest mark and where I actually got along with the professor, I requested a recommendation letter to use with my application to denote the fact that I was a good student, especially, sort of from reputable organizations. So it's always handy to keep a reference letter. And what I suggested to my professor at the time was to link the recommendation letter to a project that I did where I stood out to denote, sort of excellence. What I also encourage people to do is, especially if you're a student, depending on the type of role that you're applying for, is to maybe, sort of attach a small little portfolio of the work that you've done. And we particularly sort of request a portfolio for anything that is creative, a graphic designer, for example, an architect, for example. It's not so much about the CV, it's about, sort of the portfolio of work that they've done or they've designed. So if it's relevant to you, feel free to include those types of examples. Some work might not be suitable to share with an employee. It might be sort of sensitive, whatever it might be. But what you can definitely do is highlight the fact that you've done something and you've done really well and elaborate on it at interview, hopefully. A really interesting comment posted about using branding in CVs and copyrights. Now, fair point, to be absolutely honest, fair point. I have never come across or have encountered anybody that has had any issues in a professional capacity that has used the logo of the employer that they've worked for. When I say use branding, it's merely to catch the attention of the recruiter or the reader. Consider your CV almost an extension of your website, if you wanted to call it that. People are used to seeing graphics. So by you just putting words, especially the younger generation tend to tune out colors, logos, in a very sort of um, in a very responsible way will always make a difference. But don't overdo it and don't go crazy, because that can also be an adverse reaction.
Bilal, but also I
Self-destructing.
think he has a point. It depends on the context of the country. So I don't see it I don't see it a problem here in Qatar. Maybe having the logos and the CV, but also the individual need to make sure it's the latest logo of this company. But maybe in other contexts, in other countries, could be something that would. Uh, will show that it's not professional. So it depends from if it's culturally appropriate or not from one country to another country. But here in Qatar, I would always recommending it. But as you said, not too much graphic. Junaid, in terms of NU, you can always put Northumbria University in your LinkedIn, and that you have graduated with this degree. I know that you did a top-up program, so you will need to add 2 degrees. Actually, it's Northumbria University from 2019 till 2020 with a international banking and finance, and also CNAQ as a higher diploma degree. Bilal, I don't
Khalifa,
know if you.
just further to the point you've raised, everything has to be culturally suitable, and I agree 100%. I know when we were doing our, sort of HR module 0388, there were things that we raised with the UK to say that, although we're a British university, we need to be aware of cultural idiosyncrasies and cultural sensitivities, and there were some things that, sort of we had very frank, honest, robust discussions with the UK with. But yeah, exactly. I agree with you 100%. It needs to be culturally sensitive. It needs to be culturally correct. There's no point being, sort of. There's no point causing any sort of cultural. You know what I'm trying to say. There's no point raising cultural feathers if it's going to be detrimental to your career prospects. So if it doesn't work because of the environment you're in, obviously don't do it. But if it does, and in a Qatari context, I think it definitely does work. Feel free to utilize it in a responsible way.
Um, how a fresh graduate without experience can get a job? I know it's tough, especially in these times, but keep yourself busy as much as you can. Go and take any new opportunities, even volunteering opportunities. Work hard on getting different different skills that will maybe open for you a door. For example, learning a new language or getting a technical certificate in a specific field. All these different stuff could help you. So, for example, I know some of my friends. They were students and doing journalism in Qatar University, but at that time they were also working and doing a news platform which called Mirsal Qatar and Nadib Qatar, if you know them. After they finished from their university, they received a lot of different offers from different places. So try to be active as much as you can, especially on social media. You need to know, you need to let people know about you and about your skills and what you are doing. If you are not there, they will never know about you. So try to work hard on this. Jazz, regarding my research topic at Lancaster University, the PhD program in the first 2 years is courses, but my focus is on transnational education, TNE programs, especially universities that coming from outside to Qatar here, trying to understand students' learning experience in these universities. I'm sorry, but my laptop is out of charge. Bilal, I don't know if you answered all the questions.
I just wanted to touch base on what you just said in regards to trying to get opportunities for fresh graduates. One of the things that I keep talking about in my HR module is relationship building. We talk about WASTA and people tend to look at it in a very negative light. However, WASTA makes the world go round. I don't care in what context it is the way the world works. People buy and people recommend from people that they like and trust. So if you can utilize the networks that you have, feel free to do that, because that's just the way the world works. Really, it's not sort of particular to any cultural context or any particular region. What is called wasta in this country or in this region is called something different in another region. So if you can utilize the networks that you have, and you can build networks if you don't have any networks, by like we spoke earlier, getting out there, marketing yourself, branding yourself, volunteering. You'll get first-hand experience with people and organizations where you understand how they work from the inside, and it makes you a lot more appealing when an opportunity presents itself to apply for that position, because you know the organization and you know the stakeholders and potentially the people that might be interviewing you. So volunteer work is a definite door opener. It's a gate opener, and I would highly encourage it for somebody who might be sort of fresh in regards to experience, that might be graduating or soon to graduate.
This is also answers Junaid's question regarding any gaps on your CV. Try to not have gaps. Try to keep yourself busy as much as you can, doing volunteering work or even getting some certificates, online certificates. So if you have gaps, but in the same time you were doing online learning on LinkedIn or on Coursera, and these specific times, that means you were busy at that time. So keep yourself busy as much as you can. Try to find courses, especially that related to your jobs or related to your career path, and then try to get these certificate. And as I told you, continue to network with people, and in the same time also try to find internships, even if it was unpaid internship in the beginning. I know it will be hard, but try to get these experience so it can build on your CV.
I think from a recruiter's perspective, we're conscious that it is difficult right now. It does take a while to get work. So I don't think a recruiter is expecting, or an organization is expecting you to have, sort of every month of your professional career accounted for, right? If, as an example, you spent 5 months after graduation trying to secure work, what you can then do is account for those 5 months to say you were actively looking for work in the context of a COVID depression, for example. But in that 5 months, you can also demonstrate that you have become more employable. You have studied, you've done some online training, training that is relevant to the types of work that you will be applying for. So it denotes, sort of maturity, but it also denotes, future planning. So, there's no opportunities now, but you're building skills for when that opportunity presents itself, and you're building skills that are relevant to the employer that you'll be hoping to work for, or the sector that you'll be looking to get into. So, you can always account for gaps, if you wanted to call it that, by demonstrating what you've done for it. And sometimes, you might have caring responsibilities, and there's no way to hide that. Life happens, and if you need to care and that's your priority, then you need to care. And people understand that. So that's perfectly okay. You don't have to hide everything. I think more than anything, you need to be honest and transparent. Khalifa, I think we've answered all questions, including my PhD research topic, which is a little bit painful because I'm a little bit behind. What I would suggest is, if there's anybody that sort of thinks of questions after today's event or after today's webinar, utilizing Gibbs's reflective model, feel free to contact us via our Northumbria sort of email addresses, and we'd be happy to sort of provide any further information and to assist where we can in regards to your job search.
Jazz, regarding the next session, please follow us on Instagram and on Twitter. And this is also answer your question regarding the volunteering opportunities. Try it, and this is for all the students, try as much as you can to follow organizations that you have interest with. Sometimes they post a volunteering opportunity, or even a summer program that you can join, or a startup a program that you can always join. So if you can follow us, you will always know what are the other sessions or next session that we will have in the future, inshallah.
Perfect. Thank you, everybody, not just for your kind words, but for your questions and for your attention. I hope this was beneficial to your job search, whether it might be your first job or your next job. Like I said, if there's anything else we can help with, we'd be happy to help. Feel free to contact us on our sort of Northumbria email addresses, or contact Northumbria, and they would definitely sort of forward messages to us. We are on LinkedIn. We're quite active on LinkedIn. So we're not, we're walking the walk as well as talking the talk. So feel free to connect with us on LinkedIn as well. And we'll definitely, we'll follow your career and offer whatever help we can along the way.
Thanks, everyone, and hope to connect with you soon.